So guys, today, what we want to talk to you about a little bit is, as you've heard, the speakers talking about all these changes that they had to go through as an organization, as leaders. There's something about us going through those changes as well as individuals. And, it's been estimated that probably around 100 million workers around the world before 2030 will have to change their careers. And as Sophie mentioned also earlier, we will be changing and reskilling as well. So today we want to talk to you a bit more about that, but also from a practical point of view, help you to think about what's your canvas when it comes to career. And there's 3 points that we are going to cover that is about control, community, and agency, and that then will help you to design your own career canvas. So as mentioned before, why do we have to reskill? Because the world is changing and we need to change as well. And old way of working is not working anymore, and we've seen it. And what you will notice, probably what you're already seeing in your organizations, but also in the changes around you, is that there are new conversations that we are having about the qualities also of us as individuals and leaders that need to be in place in order to thrive in the post-pandemic world. So demand for basic cognitive and manual skills will fall, while the need for technological, social, and emotional skills will increase. So I think what's interesting is, we've talked for many years about emotional intelligence, how important it is to leaders. I think these crises highlighted this is not it would be lovely to have that, but it's a must in order to actually thrive in the constantly changing world. And so organizations are going to pay more, attention to that, but also we as individuals need to actually spend a little bit more time thinking, who am I? Where's my character? Where are my skills when it comes to those social, emotional, and technological skills, and grow to actually have the impact we want to have. The trends show us that, as the guys actually said in the conversation, and I think it's very crucial, there's something about being courageous when it comes to our careers and the changes and the reskilling that we have to do. There's something about who we are, our character, our attitude, and that's Haytham mentioned that very strongly, that's what organizations are going to look more for in the future. Already are, but even more in the future. There's something about community. It's not about my role and what I'm delivering in that Excel file, but how can we as a team, as an organization, actually make an impact? And that flexibility that all of them actually talked about, that we need to let go of our assumptions, the way we've been working, and just adjust and go with the flow wherever we can make the impact. And in the end of the day, it is really all about purpose. Why are we doing what we're doing? And from organization point of view, I think they've clearly mapped that. This is something very important. And yes, as individuals, we do align, or we do want to submit or sign up for organizational purpose. But the question is, what are you driven by as an individual? Why is it that you want to be part of that? Why is it that you want to make change? And at the end of the day, we actually are going to start thinking very deeply about our careers and where we're going. So the canvas. I think what we want to do with you today is we really want to have a conversation not about the how, what are the steps you need to take in order to reach your goal or the place where you want to be in a month, in a year, in 2 years, in 5 years, whatever is important to you personally. But there's something around, why do you want to get where you want to get? Because when you're really strong on your why, on your purpose, and where you are going, even if you don't know specifically what it looks like, you kind of have a feeling that would be nice. this kind of role or this kind of position or that kind of impact would be nice. Even if you don't know how, when you're clear on these two, no matter what the journey is, rocky or smooth, if you know your why and if you know your where, it's going to be much easier for you to reach your destination. So is Frank with us? And is
Can you hear me now?
Yes. There we go, Frank. So you take over from here. You can quickly say something about yourself if you want, and then go for it.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Frank, and I'm actually a coach. I love to coach leaders, especially since I became one. I wasn't very good at it, and I had to go through a lot of mistakes and things to learn. And at some point, I was helped by a coach, and it was phenomenal how that impacted me and how it helped me to be successful. And more importantly, to help other people be successful, which is something that I love to do. And the world just needs more great leaders. I'm sure they are already there, but maybe they don't get the help they need, or they just need a little bit of courage to be pushed in the right direction. So that's why I'm here today with you guys, and working with Patty, obviously, which is also, it's fun. Also, when things go wrong, it's just like real life.
You're flexible.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not. It's all right. We're here now. So, what we are going to talk about, to make it practical, in order to address, the sort of endurance aspect of our lives that we need to. Yeah, it's not always easy. We need to make it work, and we want to make it better, right? We want to change things that are within our ability to change, and so we have to look at ourselves first. And so the three things that are at the core of the workshop today are three elements that we basically took from the self-determination theory, for those who are interested. But it's about control. What am I good at? It's about communion, it's all about the people around us. And then it's what we call agency or autonomy. And that is really about what you want for yourself. And we've made it very practical. So that's obviously Patty introduced me as the practical guy, very pragmatic. And to start with the first, if you talk about control, it's about what you're good at. And basically I have two things in that to say. It's something that you know that is one of your qualities. And then it's also something that gives you energy. And if you combine those two things, then you're in the right place for yourself to contribute from your strengths. And Patty is going to talk to it a little bit more, but the guys at Gallup, I'm sure you've heard of them, they've researched organizations on many of them is an organization focused on their strengths or not. Those that are not, they have a real motivation issue for their employees, because as little as 7 or 9% of their people are motivated. Those organizations that focus on their strengths, they know their capability, they focus on that. They're not in the mindset of fixing the problems, but they really want to make something out of what they're good at. They have over 70% of people being, and that is something for ourselves, obviously, to start working on, because maybe our organization doesn't know it, but if we find out for ourselves, our motivation is really going to grow, and that's going to have so much impact. And I've seen it in real life and people around me in many times. So maybe,
So
Patty,
guys,
you want to talk a bit more about the strengths and how we can discover them?
Yeah, I will. I do. But before maybe we do that, I would like Sally to put a poll question up, because I think it's we would love to hear from you as well. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second, or maybe you can see the screen, but I need to see you and the poll question. Sally will put a poll question up. We would love to hear from you. What percentage of a typical day do you actually play or spend playing to your strengths? Some of you might be working in corporate, some of you might be self-employed, or working in a non-governmental organization, or big corporate. It doesn't matter. But if you think about you and your strengths, what percentage of the day you actually spend playing to your strengths? So Sally tells me that I need to vote.
You should see it in polls in the section on the right side, next to the chat. You have a little section called polls. You can poll there.
I'm back. I don't know why it kicked me out. There we go. So it's very interesting to see. Let's see, we have 10 people that voted. We still have some of you to vote. It's very good to see that most of you say, most of the time, I'm actually playing to my strengths. That's actually something that if you asked this question 10 years ago in organization, the answers would be completely different. So let's give it maybe a few more seconds. If you want to vote, go for it. I'm very happy to see that nobody answered almost never, because that is the #1 reason why people burn out. But okay, we've got most of the time 66.7% of you, and sometimes 33. So the question is, at the end of the day, how can we spend more time playing? The #1 thing is you need to know what your strengths are. I hope you can see the screen back. Why are strengths important for you as an individual? Because knowing your own strengths and weaknesses will give you a better understanding of yourself and how you function. As I said, people who don't know what they are good at and just deliver tasks because the tasks are being delivered well very often fall into the burnout category, or find themselves very often changing jobs, not being satisfied with the organization, looking for something more, looking for that purpose, and thinking that the grass is greener on the other side. And so it's very important for an individual to understand, wherever I go, what do I have to do in order to thrive? Your strengths add a value to the world. I know it might sound a little bit high up there, but as we've heard, purpose, the impact that we have in the world is very important. And when you know what you're good at and when your impact, the greatest impact is, that is relevant to people, not just around you, but to the wider system. Strengths reflect those things that come easy to you and energize you. Yeah, so if you found yourself doing something that is very easy, but it actually took you a long time, or procrastinating, that's probably because that's not your strength. But if you're in this space where you are just working and doing something, and you don't even look at your time, at your clock to see the time, and you get up, you finish something, even though it was hard, and you're so energized, that's your strength. You're in your strength zone. Now, knowing your strengths allows you to engage in activities that allow you to shine. So notice that when you're really good at something, but it also energizes you, people around you know. People around you talk about that, don't they? And there's something very important about, if you think about climbing the ladder, or promotions, or getting to the next step, or whatever you want to call that. When you're actually giving the best yourself in the activities that you carry out, people will notice that, and you are going to be rewarded for that. And it saves you time, as I said, because you're in a flow, allows you to grow, boost your self-confidence, make you a better person. You can be inspiration and a guide to others. And I think the best way to understand how you spot your strengths is look for a sign. And sign basically is you're doing something, you're successful at it, you have this instinct, and you cannot wait to do it. There is a growth opportunity for you in that, but there's also a need in you to do more of that. And you know what? There are the things that we really enjoy doing, and we're looking forward to do, but at the end of the day, the result is not that good. Yeah, those things are called hobbies. They are not called strengths. So whenever you feel like you want to do something, but the end result is not really there, that might not be a strength. That might be something that you might want to learn, but again, it might not be a strength. And I think the energy aspect is very important to mention, because some of us are really good at something, but actually it doesn't energize them. So that's something to take under consideration as well. So, oh, I'm sorry, there was a red thing on the presentation. I haven't even noticed that. Sorry for that. So let's do an exercise. If you go to this PDF file that we have developed for you, there is, and I'm going to leave this screen because I want to be able to see that as well. There is a scan yourself exercise. and we want to ask you some questions, but we also want to, we want you to be able to write down your answers. Frank, do you have that booklet in front of you?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Can you ask those questions and lead us in that exercise?
Let me see. So we're down to the section where you look at your skills, personality, character, influence, and impact.
Yes. Page 5.
The number one question: what do you like about yourself? And by the way, it's always fantastic also to ask this to the people around you, see what they come. Very simple, right? It's the first thing that comes to mind. What do I like about myself? What activities at work am I looking forward to do, and why? And this also works in retrospect, so you can look at your calendar and just look back and think, hey, what did I enjoy on a daily basis, just to see what I like. I used to do this, and color red in my agenda what I like, what I didn't like, and green what I like. 80% red was awful. But in reality, right? And then you look at, okay, but what do I like? So I found out I like one-on-one with people. That's why I became a coach. What are you proud of about yourself? Something that stands out in terms of what you have achieved, or what you're contributing to, or what you've developed, or maybe something that is even in your family line. Maybe my wife is a detective, and my younger daughter, she wants to be a policewoman as well, and her grandfather was, and his father was. What do you get complimented on most? I hope there's positive feedback, but what do people see that they like about you? It's this very, very clear indicator of where your strengths are. What accomplishments are you most proud of, and why? And it's about what you're good at, but also about where you're, what your passion contribute to. What brings out the best in you, and why is that? And then the opposite question also can be helpful sometimes. What brings out the worst of you, and why? Now, these two questions I always can answer very well, because my wife sees the best and the worst of me, sometimes very confronting. But the work environment is also great. And then what motivates you to get up, even when you don't feel like it or when you can't? Because they are the things that really make you tick, you could say.
So take a minute to think about it and write down your questions, your answers, sorry, in the tables. They're editable, so you can just write there. I am having, again, some troubles with my screen. I've tried to change the sharing, but you cannot see what I have actually.
From experience, and if you look at these questions, they're the type of questions, it's good to just have a quick go at them now, but they are ones that you need time to let them sink in and think about the answers as well. And it's good to do it on an ongoing basis, at least once a year. I like to think about these questions for myself and see what do I come up with, and how can they help me be a guide, in the decisions that I make and the priorities that I set for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Patricia, it's me that's sharing my screen at the moment. That's why it's not working on your side. So just let me know when you want me to move forward.
Okay, can you move to the next slide, please? And let's just leave it for now. Yeah, just leave it for now. Don't move forward. Let's just give people a few minutes.
Frank, I have a question about
Yes.
that. Is it a moving target? Because you were saying you do this every year. So are you implying that it can change drastically?
Drastically could be, but in my case, I would say it's sort of narrowing down my focus in life. So if you really want to invest in something, you just time and energy and your ability to learn as well on it. Found out in leadership that listening is one of the most critical skills. And it's one thing to know, practice it, but I found that over time is actually really important. And you learn to listen better. People notice, they say, "Hey, you've become a better listener," but you're just never really there. And then in every, like at home and in the work, constantly focus and create the time and space to do this. And once you come to the point where it's sort of embedded in your practice, you just don't have time for certain other things. But as seasons change, you may want to spend more time with your family, for example, if something important is happening there, or maybe it's time to make a next career move and you want to spend more time and energy on that. I think as seasons change, your priorities change, but I would say that for me, they focus more on what really matters to me as I'm figuring it out. And it's more in the same direction, but I'm just cutting out other things that I think, well, they are in the way of me actually being involved in what matters most to me. So I'm discovering more of that and focusing more of that over time.
And I just want to add to that before we move to communion. I think the panelists have mentioned, how the organizations in today's world need to, on one hand, need to be stable, and on the other hand, need to be very flexible to change. And I think there's something around, what we do, where we work might change. But what drives us, what motivates us, what our purpose is, what our values are, doesn't change that often. And it's kind of our drive and our guidance forward. Okay, so are we ready, Frank, to move to the next one?
Absolutely, yeah. So once you become more comfortable with your strengths, you know them, your environment is aware of them, which is also very important. Then the next thing we want to talk about is communion, and I just mean with that relationships with the people around us. On a deeper philosophical level, you could say as a human being, we only exist in relationship, which I believe is true, and there is a very deep longing for us to contribute to something, right? So to contribute to the lives of other people. For me personally, one of the biggest revelations in this area is that I found that the biggest impact in life that is lasting and potentially very good is the impact that you make on the people around you, in the work environment, and even more so at home with your partner, your children, if you have them. And this has become a big source of motivation for me. From a leadership perspective, I just decided I want to be a leader that makes a positive impact on the people around me. And there is a very good thing about that, and it's also tricky. So we've tried to make this very practical, and I'm just going to ask you 3 questions. And you can also find this, I think, in your booklet. And if you could just make a list of maybe 10 or more than 15 people that you are in contact with a lot, people that are important to you, whether in the work environment or in other places, who are they? Because they are the people that matter a lot in your life.
Patrycja is among my top 3. Just saying.
Yeah. You know what? When I think about relationships, just while you were thinking, I was really challenged by somebody speaking to me about healthy relationships, because there's a lot of relationships we have in life, but which are those relationships that will really have an impact and help us to move forward, become better people, and not just satisfied with where we are or what we have. And when you think about the people you are in contact with a lot right now, right? Even those that might feel toxic, might feel a little bit, that's not the best relationship, right? I'll write all of them down, and then let's see what Frank is going to lead us.
Yeah, because the next question is an interesting one. Very often we don't have clear visibility on where we want to go when we're thinking about our future, because we are pleasing too many of the people around us, are trying to please them. So the second question is, okay, which of these people do you need to stop pleasing on the list that you just wrote down? They are really not helpful in determining hours and getting there. And maybe the best thing to do is to just try and stop pleasing them and indicate some boundaries or whatever is necessary. I think that if we are too focused on what our environment is expecting of us, we can lose sight of where we want to go ourselves if they weren't there, or if there weren't so many demands. And sometimes it's just us that we try to please the wrong people. So if you write them down, then the purpose here, obviously, after we move away from this session, is for you to actually stop pleasing them, which may be harder than you think. When I was working with people in my team, I was working with people that were mostly in their mid to late 20s, early 30s. And from the start, I said to them, well, I hope you can contribute in our team, obviously, that you can learn, but I also want you to start thinking about your next move. And in a large organization, in a large corporate, you're not getting anywhere unless you have sponsors, people that give you an opportunity to show what you have, that are willing to take a risk. You know, you're doing something that you are still, you can partly do it, partly you need to learn. And then you can demonstrate what you have. And those sponsors, I always said to the people in my team, I'm one of them, but you need to find more, because they are the ones that are going to help you find your next place. And give it to you, because they can actually give you that place, and you don't know maybe who they are next. So the final question here is, okay, what are the people that maybe are not yet on your list you need to sponsor you or to mentor you? Because stage before you're actually doing something, that you go to them for advice, you work with them, and they ask you the right questions for you to figure out what's next. Who is not on your list that you need to sponsor you? And this is something I believe everybody needs, these kinds of people in their lives. And if I didn't have them, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now.
And for those of you who are not in corporates, but you work as a freelancer or looking for a job, whatever it is, we've added in the booklet a fourth question around who is there to support you, encourage you, challenge you when needed. Because at the end of the day, the people at work can be our mentors, can be our sponsors, but we have all the supportive system around us where, you know, our friends, our family, our neighbors, I don't know, whoever it is to you, are important. And they actually play a crucial role in helping us to move forward as well. So think about which of your friends, family members there to cheer you, lift you up whenever something is challenging, tell you when you need to learn and when you need to change, challenge you on some of your skills or character. So think about those as well, because they are very helpful in making sure that you reach the destination that you want to reach. Yeah. So if we go, if we move forward to the next one, agency. Yeah.
And you could also say autonomy, which I like. I think that this topic is actually something which is deeper. So it's what motivates us inside. And as human beings, well, certainly I'm wired like that, you want to be able to have a say in life, that you can contribute to what matters most to you. You want to have that kind of freedom. And I know that there's many places in the world where that's not promoted, or maybe not really possible, but in many places, according, and especially in the Netherlands where I live, that is something that we can do. You want to be able to contribute to that from your own perspective and say, hey, this is what really matters to me, and so therefore I want to do this. And the way that we've made it practical is to think about our values. So I think in the 60s, 70s, a guy named Milton Rockich researched these across cultures, and he came up with a big bucket of 18 shared values. He calls them terminal values, you know, the sort of end goals in life that motivate people. That's something that goes quite deep in our, you know, being human. And so if you put them on, I've put them in a word cloud in the presentation. And there are things that if you look at them, you think, oh yeah, family, security, true friendship, freedom. Maybe if you were once in a beauty pageant, you think world peace, that's my number one thing. Personally, I like eternal life because it puts things in a whole different perspective. And this is talking about salvation, which is obviously in religion a big theme. But it can also be accomplished if you want to achieve something, or maybe you just want inner peace, inner harmony. Maybe you're in the business of national security, which is hopefully why many people work in government positions, etc. And I think in determining our goals, we have to know, do these actually help us, these values, to achieve them? Are they aligned? Because if they are, that makes it so much easier for you to be motivated, to get up every day and to do all the hard work to make a difference in that area. And I think in the poll section, we have room for everybody to put in their top 1 value. Is that right? From the list?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my question to you guys is, can you just pick your number 1 value from this list where you say, well, that's me, in the poll section, and then we can see what comes out. This is a matter of interest. Oh, it was terrible. In the work environment where I worked, we did this exercise with my team to figure out what our shared team values were. So first I was going to tell them, and then someone told me, Frank, you cannot tell people what their values are. You have to ask them. Okay. So we had a card deck with 75 values, and we just went through a democratic process to bring them out. We landed on 5 team values, and I was very, very persistent that wisdom should be one of them. I like to ask the question in any given situation, okay, what's wisdom? So I voted wisdom.
You know, I every Christmas and every birthday, I ask my husband, what do you want to get? And he always says, the world peace. So that is something very hard to buy or give, but there's something about our motivation and how it links to values. And just adding to what you said, Frank, notice in your life, not just professional life, but personal life, our behaviors, how we interact, what we say, how we react to things happening around us, very much links to our values. And we don't actually spend time thinking about it much. Why are we reacting when somebody said something to us, or why are we reacting when we see something happening that somebody else might say, oh, that's nothing, but you are having a strong reaction to it? That is because it's linked to our values, and when somebody cross them, things happen.
And one final thing I would like to say, I just love this kind of language, obviously this is language, these are words that help us talk about purpose, which is something that is so important in the world today. And as a leader, especially, but also for yourself, people will look at you and think, well, can you help me figure out what my purpose in life is? And can you tell me why I should work here, for example? And I just think it's so easy to say, well, happiness is something that you can create in terms of a joyful environment or respectful, or an accomplishment. It doesn't really matter what you do. If you're working in a team and you accomplish something and everybody's happy about that, that helps. Finding wisdom, you can do many places in harmony. So there's a lot of things that, regardless of where you are, you can help people see that, hey, we can do this, even though people may feel that their ultimate place is somewhere else or they're on a journey. This helps you right where you are. And it's something that you can contribute to. So I personally like this, which is obviously why we put it in this workshop. And I hope it will start to think about this a bit more when you think about your goals.
So guys, Sally, if you can just move to the question. Go back, please, to the question of this day. I think, we've asked you for your top 1, but what are your top 3 values, actually? And why are we asking about top 3? Because when you're thinking about, career or about, the impact that you want to have, we're not just driven by one strongest value. There's a combination, right? There are traits that make us who we are. And as we talk about strengths at the beginning, something that gives you energy, but also you're good at, there's something also about values, adding values to that. When you are coming from a deep place and you're doing something with that purpose, that also helps you to being better at delivering the task or actions, because it's coming from a different place. So in your workbooks, you have space to write your top 3 values. You might already have done that. And then we don't have time right now to spend too much on explaining or giving you time to explain why those values are important to you. But after the workshop, whenever you have a minute to reflect, think deeply. Why do you think this is important to you? Why freedom or self-respect is so important to me? Because we all come from different backgrounds, and where we're from in terms of not a country of origin, but our upbringing, the way our parents interacted with us, our educational system, the city we lived in, the friends we had around, where you went to university, what job you had, everything kind of impacts us. And it's very interesting to understand also, why is something so important to me as it is. So if we move to the next slide now, Sally, thank you. It's really, the canvas is really, okay, here I am, and this is where I'm going. And Sally, if you can move to the points. Yeah, perfect, thank you. So if you think about here, it's where you are now. And it might be something, it might be a really good place for you. Some of you might are like, yes, I love this and I enjoy it and I don't ever want to move away from it. And some of it might think this is frustrating. So the invitation for you right now is to think a little bit more about that, but also, that there, even if you might be very clear on where you're going, but if you don't know what there is, there's something about understanding in your thinking, in your head, but also in your heart. What does it feel and look like to be in that place? What's so special about the place? What is it that I really want from that place? And then think about, okay, if I want to get there, what do I need to nurture, develop, strengthen? Not in terms of task. I need to learn to exophile or be more digital, or I don't know. But what are the things in you, in your qualities, in your character, in your values, in whatever it is that you need to strengthen, develop to help you to get there? But also, what does it need to shift? What do you need to let go of? What is it that is actually not allowing you to reach that destination? And we have in the workbook on page 7, we've asked you those questions. Here is where you are now. Are you satisfied? Is something missing? What is working when it's not? And there, it's actually a vision. It's a picture of where you want to be that creates that passion, energy, motivation in you. So take now 2 or 3 minutes. You might not have answers to all of it, but take 2 or 3 minutes, and we're going to be, we will be a little bit more silent and write down what's coming up for you when you're thinking about this. Yeah? I've asked you a question about the here and there. And I said, what is your head and what is your heart telling you? Because what we often see is when people ask us questions, we come with those thinking answers, the answers that are coming very easily to us. And I think there's a beauty in actually, especially when you're thinking about purpose and meaning and impact, because we all have influence and we all have impact. It's to ask that question, okay, what, I know my head is saying that, what is my heart feeling? And you will notice that sometimes they're aligned, and you will notice that sometimes there is a gap. And there's something about how you can bring both of those together. Yeah. And it's a very good coaching question. I very often ask senior leaders, is this your head talking or is it your heart talking? Okay. So I know that you might not be able to write everything down. That's why you have those booklets to take with you. But as you can see on the screen, the question is, okay, so what's next? Yeah. And you can see in your booklet that we've designed like a little career canvas for you with some questions to really dig deeper, not just how you want to do this, but why you're doing it and where you're going. And so both control, agency, and communion are there to really help you to understand your why and your where. Because you might not know what organization you want to work at in terms of the name or industry, but you might want to know or understand that it's an organization that cares for environment or works towards creating impact, freedom around the world when it comes to human trafficking or child labor, whatever it is. You have those questions that we've asked you have not just helped you to narrow down or understand how you want to get somewhere, but the real motivation and the real drive, the why and the where. And so use control, agency, and communion to really narrow down the actions that you want to take. So it helps you to understand what are the actions that are actually helpful and what are the actions you should not take. Who are the people you should talk to? Who are the people you should avoid? And I think there's something around being also okay that some people might not be there to support you. There's a season in life for relationships. And there are some people there to be with you for a longer term. Some people are there for a shorter term. And I can see Sophie has just wrote down if you guys have any questions. So we won't do this specific, this career canvas that you see on the last page of your booklet. We won't do it now. Do it yourself later when you have time and you can really focus. But let's maybe spend the last 10 minutes on answering some of your questions. And Sophie, I know you will bring people in. I saw earlier a question from Celine.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Shall we talk about that?
Yeah, I was asking Celine if she wanted to come ask it herself, but I don't see her on the panel. So a question about motivation from hospitality student that I work with. The situation we are experiencing in the industry since more than a year now isn't motivating us to join the industry. So should the motivation come from within or from outside? Why should they join the industry or continue studying to become hospitality professionals?
And I think Frank will probably build up on that as well. But I think the answer is, what is it that you can control? What is it that you can't control? And I think, if we think about what we can control is or what we own is our values, our motivation. And the easy answer to this, the motivation should come from within you, because that's a sustainable one. People industry, companies can let us down. But what's in here, it's in my control. It's what I can take care of and make sure that helps me to reach wherever I want to go. Frank, you want to build up on that?
Yeah, I think if you really believe in something, then it's more about how do you engage with it. So you have to, first of all, you have to really know that this is a place where I believe in this. I want to contribute to this. I want to make something out of it. I believe there's value in it. It's important. And then some maybe you have to wait for a season. It's not, the momentum is not now because of, well, in this environment where we're in, not many traveling, but yeah, if you believe that it's going to come back, then it's all about finding that inner conviction and then going for it. And yeah, combine it with something else, I would say, that you can do right now, and then at some point in the future you will be able to do it. That's what I believe in. And if you really believe in it yourself, it's also a test of your faith, right? And it's, I think, for everybody who wants something, who is going to pursue something, you have to face that. Do I really believe in what I want to go for? And this would be a perfect opportunity to do so.
And if I may add, if that's okay, Sophie, when I think of myself being younger, being a student and starting my career, and I think of, you know, the younger generation as well, the 4 words come to my mind: patience, ownership, humility, capacity. I think very often we want this, and there's something around, you know, being faithful and growing our capacity, because capacity is not just what we can do. Capacity is what we can handle mentally, with our character, with our abilities, when it comes to people management. And I think very often we want this, but we lack the patience and understanding there's a learning. There's a learning.
You wrote about this. You wrote about growing your capacity.
I did.
Yes. Yeah, there is definitely a learning curve in growing your capacity. You still have to have the maximum appetite, but you need to get your gut to be able to actually process it.
And can I just add humility?
Yeah. Humility
in being faithful to the small. Humility will take you farther, right? There's something around, and that's stewardship, I guess, making sure that whatever little you have, you grow it into something bigger rather than wanting the whole thing right away. So that's, you know, and no matter if you're a student or if you're 40 or 50 years old and starting a new career, or new function, or whatever it is, there's humility, integrity, capacity, extremely important no matter what stage of a career you are on.
For sure. Jennifer was asking, in a time when you're working on startups and wear many hats, how can you continue to pursue your strength and overall happiness through doing many different tasks?
That's a good question. Yeah.
I think the integrity bit is very interesting. Maybe you can expand on that in the wide sense of it, in the wholeness of it.
Frank, do you want to, or shall I?
Go ahead, and maybe I'll.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You know, when you are in a startup, or even a small company, from a practical point of view, you end up doing a lot of things, and that's because you don't have functions responsible for specific things, right? And I think, you know, what we just talked about, humility, is very important in terms of putting your hands on, even if it means copying a piece of paper when you are doing strategy, right? And I think, you know, character, I don't think we talk enough about character in the corporate world, but character really matters when it comes to career and impact. And so, you know, the motivation or the strength and energy to keep going, as with everything else, comes from within, but also comes from, you know, understanding the season you are in and how it can contribute in that season, in that little startup, to actually make it grow. Because I think very often we say, you know, it's somebody else's startup, not mine, so I would just do this. There's something about ownership, but also understanding how can you serve in order for things to grow, because that will actually have an impact on you and on your career. So that's kind of what I would add, apart from what was said already.
Yeah, and I found, there's one thing that I found over time that I just needed to do constantly, is really be very, very critical in eliminating that just don't add value. So you need to somehow find time and space, and this is something that all of us have to do in our life, for what is important, even if it's just 5 minutes a day or a half an hour a week. Because if you start sowing in what is important, it will start to grow. I've seen that. And if you think really about, do now or whatever way you use, like Stephen Covey, for example, in this context with his 7 habits, but it's all about knowing, okay, I'm not going to do these things, and I'm going to focus on the things that are really important. And in so doing, I believe you can steer towards a better situation. So even though at times you may have to do a lot, which is also outside maybe of your own strengths or comfort zone or whatever, if you do it, you will end up in a better place.
Can I add something? As a leader of multiple startups, but right now I'm in the process of it. I realized, I forgot how it was, but I realized how much space it gives you to procrastinate, because what you do is building on your own strength. You go for the stuff you're good at, right? That are not necessarily always the thing you should be actually focusing on, like Frank says. And you just put, nicely on the side all the things that you should actually focus on, but you have so much to do. You're a startup person, so you get too much to do. Where focusing in a startup is probably it's the single most important thing you can do. Can I ask you something about coming back to what you were to the canvas from an organization point of view? Because you were saying, okay, I align my value. I know I'm clear about what I want from an at least what values I want to align to. How do you do it from an organizational point of view? How do you, all of our speakers mentioned it this morning. It's a brand new world as an organization when it comes to recruiting, because now it's actually an employees market. So how do you go from just putting your mission statements and not always leaving it because you haven't really thought through it, to being a purpose-driven organization, and knowing very clearly who you want to attract, because as an organization what you want to add to the world. That's a long one for 2 minutes left, but hey.
So I will quickly answer it from the diversity and inclusion perspective, because that's what we really help clients. How do you make sure that diversity and inclusion is not just a tagline, but it's actually really a strategic objective and something that we live from the bottom up as well, not just top down, right? Because top down doesn't always work. It's just another PowerPoint presentation. And so what we always say is you need to ask your people what they want and what they believe. And when we create and help organizations to create a diversity and inclusion strategy, we actually go and talk to people of what does it mean for that organization to be inclusive, and what do they want to see more of or less of in the organization. And then we build that strategic plan. So for me, there's something around, align with what your people want, what they believe, and how they can be part of that mission. Because at the end of the day, they are driving it, not the PowerPoint presentation from the top. Frank, you?
Yeah, so the reality is, the organizations I worked in, they did one thing. They would say, whatever your here is, we cannot stay here. This is not, whatever got us here, it's not going to get us there. This is not the right place. We need to be somewhere else. And it's a good strategy, it works. But you also really have to be clear about, okay, how can we create win-win situations? Because people working for an organization, they are there because the organization needs them to do something. And they need to be realistic about it. But at the same time, as an organization, you can offer so much to your people that will cost you nothing extra, right? It's already there, and you need to figure out what that looks like. So as a manager, for example, help people to do what we do right now, help them get clarity on their purpose, on their strengths. They found that was a massive bonus, right? And they got that for free. When I did it, I was doing it outside with an external coach. It cost a bit of money, but if you offer a safe place where people are happy, I think there's something that is almost, how much money can you put to that? Just human beings interacting. So I think, and there are just a couple of things that I like. There's many other things, but if you start to offer them and you start to move towards a situation where things are better than here is not good, we cannot stay here. Even though you don't have maybe full clarity on what the future looks like or what that should be, you will find out as you go, and it's going to be a brilliant journey. So that's how I try to work it where I was,
Well, thank you very much, Frank. Thank you, Patrycja. It was really, it was fantastic. We could stay the whole afternoon. Hopefully, we're going to do this more times and more often.